जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद। जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद। जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद। जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय। श्रील कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to today's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita reading. We are reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, Chapter 4, Sri Madhavendra Puri's devotional service, text 124. So, yesterday we were reading that after giving initiation to Srila Advaita Acharya, Madhavendra Puri continued his journey to Jagannath Puri and he came to Remuna. And at Remuna, when he saw the beauty of the deity Gopinath, he became bewildered. He danced and he sang in front of the deity, and then he sat down and he asked the pujaris of Gopinath, what kind of offerings do they make to the deity? Why did he ask this? Because um, from the arrangements, just from the look of the deity, he could understand that only first class offerings must be uh, they must be offering only first class uh, bhoga to Gopinath. He concluded that by seeing the arrangements, and then he asked them what kind of offerings they make. So after describing different offerings, they told him about Amrita Keli, the sweet rice which is offered to Gopinath. And it's called Amrita Keli because it is just like the Amrita, or maybe even better because this is transcendental. It's just like Amrita, which is partaken by the demigods. So, and this is also known as Gopinather Kheer, and it is famous all over the world as Gopinath's Kheer because nowhere in the world will you find the same kheer. This type of kheer you will not find anywhere else. And as he was hearing the glories of this kheer, the pujari on the altar brought, and it is offered in 12 clay pots, and they're all filled with this kheer, Amrita Keli. As he was hearing, as Madhavendra Puri was hearing the glories of this kheer, sweet rice, it was it was time for that day's night offering. So the pujari brought 12 pots of this Amrita Keli kheer and offered it to Gopinath. So while the offering was going on, and when Madhavendra Puri heard the glories of this kheer, a thought immediately occurred in his heart, in his mind, that if I could, without begging, if I could get a little bit of this kheer, I can prepare the same offering for my Gopal in Braj. I could prepare. But as soon as that thought came to his heart, he felt ashamed. Why he felt ashamed? That the Lord is still on eating it, he's still enjoying it, and before the Lord has eaten, I got this thought that I should, you know, that I got this thought of tasting it, although his motive in that thought was not personal enjoyment. His motive was to find out what it is like so that he could prepare for Gopal. Nevertheless, he desired to taste it while the Lord is still enjoying it. He felt so ashamed. He felt so ashamed of himself. And at that time, at that very moment, as he was feeling ashamed, the offering was over, and the pujari, moved all the offerings after ringing the bell, and he blew the conch and began the arti, and various instruments were being played and they were singing. So Madhavendra Puri offered his obeisances, still feeling very ashamed. He offered his obeisances in front of the deity, and silently he left the temple room while the arti was going on, while the kirtan was going on. And when he went outside, he didn't say a word to anyone. Not saying anything to anyone, he silently left. So let's see what happened after that. प्रेमामृते तृप्त Trishna nahi badhe. Sorry. One more point was there here. That what was the food yesterday? We read about Madhavendra Puri, the glories of Madhavendra Puri. So it's possible that I'm getting mixed up with what we read there also. That his food and drink was, what was his food? The love in separation of Krishna, the various mellows of rasa in Krishna Prema. That was his food. So I just want to say the previous verse that we read, 123. Yeah. Madhavendra Puri avoided begging. He was completely, yeah, so that's not said here. Okay. He avoided begging. He was completely unattached and indifferent to material things. If without his begging someone offered him some food, he would eat, otherwise he would fast. So after reading that he left the temple, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is telling us about the glories of Madhavendra Puri, right? So he was completely virakta and uh, indifferent, udasa, right? Virakta and udasa, detached, not attached, and indifferent towards material things. So he wouldn't ask anyone for anything. That was his thing. So then today's verse. Okay, today's verse. प्रेमामृते तृप्त क्षुधा तृष्णा नहीं बाधे खीर इच्छा होइलो ताहे माने अपराधे प्रेमामृते तृप्त. Okay, so Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is uh, justifying why Madhavendra Puri's desiring to taste that sweet rice was not an offense. So he's explaining it now. So that's why he said he would never beg anyone for anything, because for him there was no need. He was completely unattached. He didn't have any attachments in material world. We may have some attachments. You like this particular food, even in prasadam, isn't it? And there's so many items. I like that. You would prefer one particular item, or so attachment and completely indifferent. Just to give you an example, Jad Bharat, right? Also completely indifferent. His brothers would serve him spoiled, leftovers from the previous day, or like really food which is rotten and all that. He didn't mind. He just, because he was indifferent, whether it is a very, you know nice hot food, or nice silk clothes, or some torn clothes, seeing them equally, right? Whether it is gold or stone, you don't discriminate, you don't see the difference, you see it all as matter. For Gyanis, they don't see, oh, this is gold, so I'll save it. What's the value of these stones? No. The vision of uh, someone who has transcended the material conditions is that he doesn't see any difference. What to speak of Madhavendra Puri? About Madhavendra Puri, we read he's a Paramahamsa. He's the topmost of the sannyasis, topmost. So there was no question of any attachment toward any material things. So why would he desire, oh, sweet rice? Oh, this is a special sweet rice. I want to eat. This is only found in the entire world. Can you imagine? In the entire world, it's not there anywhere else, and you have an access to that. How would you feel? Nobody else has it. I get an opportunity. You want to go and get it. Was that his intention? Let me taste this sweet rice, then I can tell everyone I have tasted Gopinath sweet rice. Nobody has it, but I have tasted it. Is that the intention? No, he's completely detached. Then, okay, if he's detached, but still he will have to maintain his life, right? So he must be eating, right? Things. No, no. His food, what is his food that we are reading now? What does he eat to sustain himself? Text 124. Premamrite tripta. He is satisfied by premamrita. Amrita is nectar. What type of nectar? The nectar of love of Krishna. He drinks the nectar of love of Krishna all the time. And by that, his life is sustained and he is completely satisfied with that. He doesn't need any other nectar, any food, or any drink. He does not need. There's no need. Therefore, there is no expectation. His food and drink is premamrita. Premamrite tripta. Satisfied by premamrita. Kshuddha trishna nahi badhe. So, hunger and thirst don't bother him. He's always full. He's filled with prema of Krishna, so he doesn't feel any hunger or thirst. Ordinary hunger and thirst don't bother Madhavendra Puri because his food is prema, the nectar of prema. Khira ichha hoilo. To such a person who never suffers from hunger and thirst, if he is desiring, if he gets this desire to get that kheer of Gopinath, Tahe mane aparadhe. And still he is thinking this is an offense, right? He's thinking that it's an offense that I'm desiring that sweet rice. Okay? Premamrite tripta kshuddha trishna nahi badhe khira ichha hoilo tahe mane aparadhe. And he's thinking, oh, this is an offense that I have desired Gopinath's kheer. A Paramahamsa like Madhavendra Puri is always satisfied in the loving service of the Lord. Material hunger and thirst cannot impede his activities. When he desired to taste a little sweet rice offered to the deity, he considered that he had committed an offense by desiring to eat what was being offered to the deity. So uh, this is his consciousness. See, a pure devotee can never consider himself a pure devotee. That's another thing. If if we are thinking that we are like we are pure devotees or something, that means we are far from that, because a pure devotee, his consciousness is he's always thinking that I'm the most fallen. So there's no way that he can you know desire anything for sense enjoyment. He's a paramahamsa, and in such a person's heart, if there's a desire to taste, what do you understand? This is inspired by the Lord only. But nevertheless, the devotee feels, oh, I'm a great offender to the Lord. I'm a great offender. I have desired to eat or to taste the sweet rice of the Lord, which the Lord has not completed enjoying. Purport. It is advisable that food offered to the deity be covered when taken from the kitchen to the deity room. In that way, others may not see it. Those who are not accustomed to following the advanced regulative devotional principles may desire to eat the food, and that is an offense. How nice. Srila Prabhupada takes every opportunity to give us practical instructions in devotional service. Madhavendra Puri saw the sweet rice and he desired, but his position is far away. It's much different than ordinary people's looking at the offering. So Srila Prabhupada is saying whenever we make an offering to the deity, you should cover it with a cloth because it's meant for Krishna's enjoyment. Before, of course, not on the altar. Sometimes I see people keep it covered on the altar also, not like that. You have to remove the cloth for Krishna to see and eat. You can cover it with something else so that others may not see it, or just close the door. Uh, but while you're taking from kitchen to the altar, it has to be covered with a cloth. Why? While you're carrying it, there may be others, and if they look at it, they may get a desire. Not that they will desire, but they may. If he's a neophyte, by seeing that offering, he may think, oh, nice offering. Oh, today this is made, so we'll get this in prasadam today. He's already meditating on what he's going to eat soon after it comes off the altar. What all is made today? Oh, you made this. Nice. For lunch, we are going to get this. But that shouldn't be the meditation because that is an offense. That means that person has already enjoyed it on a subtle level. And something which is enjoyed by others, you're going to offer it to Krishna. That's the point. So it has to be covered with a cloth before taking it to the altar. Those who are not accustomed to following the advanced regulative devotional principles may desire to eat the food, and that is an offense. Therefore, no one should be given a chance to even see it. However, when it is brought before the deity, it must be uncovered. Yes, I've seen a couple of times some devotees at home, not in the temple. They leave the cloth on and they offer it to the Lord. No. When it is brought before the deity, it must be uncovered. Seeing the food uncovered before the deity, Madhavendra Puri desired to taste a little of it so that he could prepare a small, similar sweet rice for his Gopal. Madhavendra Puri was so strict, however, that he considered this to be an offense. Consequently, he left the temple without saying anything to anyone. The Paramahamsa is therefore called Vijita Shadguna. Vijita Shadguna. He must conquer the six material qualities: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Matsarya, Mada Matsarya, or Matsarya, and Kshuddha Trishna. Lust, anger, greed, illusion, enviousness, hunger, and thirst. Okay? Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa means he must have conquered all these things: lust, anger, greed, illusion, enviousness, and hunger and thirst. 6 items. So that's why Madhavendra Puri left the temple, thinking himself to be an offender. Text 125. Gramera shunya hate bosi korena kirtana eta pujari korailo thakure shayana. So in this way, where did Madhavendra Puri go? Gramera shunya hate. He went to the villages, that's Remuna is the village. So there's a market, but it's empty, and nobody is there now. Um, because it's night, right? This is Shayan offering, evening offering. So the market was closed now. Generally, when do people do marketing? This is even back then. There was no electricity even, right? So usually they do, in the morning hours, and afternoons they close down everything. Sometimes maybe in the evening before it gets dark, maybe they may sell some vegetables or something sometimes. But by the time it is dark, everything is empty, right? They just close down everything. So Madhavendra Puri went to the market, the empty market, the deserted market. Nobody's there. And he just left the temple altogether and went and sat in the marketplace where nobody's there at that time in the night. Sat down and he was chanting. Gramera shunya hate bosi korena kirtana eta pujari koraila Thakure Shena. And at that time, the pujari came to give rest to the deity. Right? The last offering, what is the last offering? Shayanarti you do. Before Shayanarti, you offer sweet rice, right? In the night, sweet rice to the Lord. So after that, then you do arti, close the altar, and put the deities to rest. No, I'm just trying to think. Yeah. Or after the Shayan Arti. Yeah. So in the evening after dressing, you give sweet rice, and then you do Shayan Arti, and then you give rest to the deity. So, and sometimes after Gaurarti, then there's no opening of the curtains. Finished. After dressing, night dress, then give sweet rice to the Lord. Then after the Lord has accepted the sweet rice, then give the deities, put the deities to rest. Shayan. So the pujari, after the sweet rice offering, Aarti was over. That's right. So Shayan Aarti was going on, isn't it? Sweet rice was offered in the evening when Madhavendra Puri was there, and then Shayan Aarti was going on. At that time, Madhavendra Puri left the temple. So after Shayan Aarti, the doors are closed, the curtain is closed, and now the pujari came to give rest to the deity. Huh. So when the aarti was going on, I said that pots were moved. No, they were not moved. Usually they leave the pots on the altar. I mean the pots or the bowls in which you offer. In this case, it is pots, small clay pots. They leave them on the altar. You make the offering and then you leave it on the altar. You do the aarti. So the pots were there when aarti was performed. And then after the aarti, now moving everything and putting the beds to put the deities to rest. The pujari comes in to put the deities to rest. Okay. Madhavendra Puri left the temple and sat down in the village marketplace, which was vacant. Sitting there, he began to chant. In the meantime, the temple priest laid the deity down to rest. Purport. Although Madhavendra Puri was not interested in eating and sleeping, his interest in chanting the Mahamantra was as acute as if he were an aspiring transcendentalist rather than a Paramhamsa. Wow, look at that. Yes, he was not interested. See, what do we know about those who have perfected their devotional service? They are especially those who are on the Raganuga Bhakti, right? They are beyond rules and regulations, right? They don't need to follow any rules and regulations because they have achieved this spontaneous love for Krishna. So when you have that spontaneous love for Krishna, you're not required, to follow, like you have to chant so many rounds a day or this or that. Still, he's a Paramahamsa devotee, but his chanting was as if he's an aspiring devotee. See, when you have not reached the finish line, if you're in a race and you're running, how do you run? Right? With you really want to get there to your destination. So you're running with great eagerness. That's an aspiring devotee. You want to achieve Krishna Prema. So with great eagerness, you are trying, endeavoring, chanting because you want it. After you get it, then, oh, now you have it. So you can relax now. Isn't it? He's a Paramahamsa. You can just sit and enjoy love of Godhead. No, but in his case, he was so eager to chant Krishna's names as if he were an aspiring devotee. even though he was a Paramahamsa. And as far as his eating and sleeping, he was not interested. He wouldn't beg anyone for any food if it didn't come, because he was completely satisfied in his, he was tasting Krishna Prema, he was drinking Krishna Prema. That was completely satisfying him. He was not interested in eating and sleeping. How do you know about sleeping? Remember at Govindakund, he just sat all night chanting when Gopal didn't return, the boy didn't return. He just sat down chanting all night long. By the Lord's arrangement, somewhere just before dawn, he just fell asleep, and then the Lord appeared to him in a dream. So he was not keen on sleeping, he was not keen on eating, he was very keen about chanting the names of the Lord, even though he was a Paramahamsa. This means that even in the Paramahamsa stage, one cannot give up chanting. Haridas Thakur and the Goswamis were all engaged in chanting a fixed. So you may say, yeah, they chant in their, sometimes even neophyte devotees say, how many rounds do you chant? I don't chant on the beads. I just chant, I'm chanting all the time on my lips. I'm always chanting. Whatever work I do, I'm chanting. Commitment is required. And we are neophytes. And what to speak of, So he's a Paramahamsa devotee and Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur chanted a fixed number of rounds, right? And the Goswamis also, they chanted, and their rounds were not 16 rounds. They were chanting 192 rounds like that. That even in the Paramahamsa stage, one cannot give up chanting. Haridas Thakur and the Goswamis were all engaged in chanting a fixed number of rounds. Therefore, chanting on beads is very important for everyone, even though one may become a Paramahamsa. This chanting can be executed anywhere, either inside or outside the temple. Madhavendra Puri even sat down in a vacant marketplace to perform his chanting. Yeah, sometimes they say, no, I don't chant here, I don't chant there. I mean, it's good if you have a certain place where you chant your fixed number of rounds, because it just shows that you are giving that importance to the chanting, right? You don't want to chant when you are distracted by so many things here and there. Rather, you want to give that attention to your chanting. So you have a certain time and a certain place where you properly chant your rounds very, very attentively. That's very good, actually. But apart from that, actually for chanting, there is no restrictions. It's not that after I'm done with 16 rounds, now I don't chant anymore. You can chant anywhere, wherever you are, you can chant, right? It's not that you should only chant in the temple, or you should only chant here or there and in this condition or that condition. It can be chanted anywhere. Madhavendra Puri is sitting in a marketplace and chanting. Madhavendra Puri even sat down in a vacant marketplace to perform his chanting. As stated by Srinivas Acharya in his prayers to the Goswamis, Nama Gana Natibihi. A Paramahamsa devotee is always engaged in chanting and rendering loving service to the Lord. Chanting the Lord's holy names and engaging in his service are identical. Okay. Chanting and engaging in service are identical. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23, there are 9 kinds of devotional service: hearing, Shravanam, chanting, Kirtanam, remembering, Vishnu, Smaranam, serving, Pada Sevanam, worship of the deity, Archanam, praying, Vandanam, carrying out orders, Dasyam, serving him as a friend, Sakyam, and sacrificing everything for the Lord, Atmanivedanam. Although each process appears distinct, when one is situated on the absolute platform, he can see that they are identical. For instance, hearing is as good as chanting, and remembering is as good as chanting or hearing. Similarly, engaging in deity worship is as good as chanting, hearing, or remembering. The devotee is expected to accept all 9 processes of devotional service. But even if only one process is properly executed, he can still attain the highest position, Paramahamsa, and go back home, back to Godhead. So it's not like one is better than the other. Devotee is expected to do all. But if you're attracted to one, if you do even one very sincerely, you can still become a Paramahamsa. I will stop there. Mangalati.